Ethiopia. A country where time seems to move differently, where the world follows its own rhythm. What year is it? And what year is it here? In these lands, the calendar works differently. Ethiopia has 13 months in a year. Of course, it is not about living an extra month, but about giving a different meaning to time itself. These are the lands where some of the world's oldest human fossils were discovered, a civilization that has protected its identity through faith and resilience for centuries. In Ethiopia, history is not locked away inside museums, as it often is in modern cities. It lives among the rocks, continues through the mountains, and survives in the hands, voices, and daily lives of the people. Our cinematic 4K journey begins with a secret hidden inside stone. Lalibela, the sacred city carved into stone. The ground appears flat. The surroundings feel silent and almost empty. But as you move closer to the edge, the earth suddenly opens beneath you. The 11 churches of Lalibela were not built upward. Each one was carved downward into a single mass of volcanic rock. Walls were revealed by removing stone. Doorways were cut directly into the hard surface. What stands before your eyes was not created by bringing materials here, but by carefully removing everything that was not needed. At nearly 2,500 meters above sea level, on a dry and rugged plateau, this extraordinary place remains one of Ethiopia's most remarkable destinations. It is said that countless workers took part in its construction. Some records claim the work was completed in 24 years. Yet local tradition tells another story. Angels descended at night and continued the work after the laborers had gone. Difficult to believe, perhaps, but even today the scale of this achievement is hard to explain. The Church of St. George is the most recognized structure here. Seen from above, it forms the shape of a Greek cross. Carved directly into the flat rock and surrounded by a deep trench, it almost feels designed for light itself. When the morning sun reaches the trench, the stone begins to glow with golden tones. And this is not simply a historic place. It remains an active place of worship. Priests dressed in white robes still walk through the narrow corridors, carrying crosses in their hands, continuing traditions that have endured for centuries. Aksum, one of the great civilizations of the ancient world. If Lalibela was carved through faith, Aksum was built through power. In this ancient city of northern Ethiopia stand towering granite monuments, rising meters into the sky. Each one was erected without modern engineering. Their surfaces are decorated with carved doors and window motifs, almost as if they were representations of multi-story buildings. Beneath them lie burial chambers, where the great figures of the Aksumite Empire were laid to rest. From the 1st to the 7th century AD, Aksum stood alongside Rome, Persia, and China as one of the great civilizations of its era. The empire controlled major trade routes across the Red Sea. It also embraced Christianity during the early 4th century, long before much of Europe. And within this city, inside a small chapel, something waits. Is it history, legend, or mystery? Share your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear your perspective. According to local belief, the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest said to have carried the 10 Commandments given to Moses, is protected here inside the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. Only one person is allowed to see it. A guardian who dedicates his entire life to its protection. Once appointed, he enters and never leaves again. No visitors, no return to the outside world. He remains there until another guardian takes his place. There are no photographs, only one man and his word. If you are discovering true explorations for the first time, this is a good moment to subscribe. Every journey we make is crafted as a cinematic 4K travel documentary. Hidden wonders, remarkable destinations, and the cultures that make our world extraordinary. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. Now, let us go even further back in time. Yeha, Africa's forgotten temple. We now travel even further back in time, beyond Aksum itself. Hidden among the mountains of the Tigray region stands the great temple of Yeha, a structure dating back to the 7th century BC and widely regarded as the oldest standing building in Ethiopia. It was built by the mysterious Dumped civilization. Massive limestone blocks were fitted together with such precision that after nearly 3,000 years, countless tremors, and long chapters of history, its 12-meter walls still remain standing. Many journeys through Ethiopia pass by Yeha without stopping. Abuna Yemata Guh, the church in the sky. Our journey has only just begun. Until now, the places we explored were hidden underground or spread across open landscapes. Now, we climb upward. Carved into the sandstone cliffs of the Erta Mountains stands Abuna Yemata Guh, a church built against a rock face more than 200 meters above the ground. There is no road, no staircase. Reaching this site involves a challenging ascent up the cliff face, with the final meters being particularly narrow and exposed. But once inside, the outside world seems to disappear. The walls are covered with 500-year-old frescoes. Portraits of the 12 apostles, depictions of the 9 Syrian saints, all painted with mineral pigments and preserved across centuries. The dry climate and isolated altitude helped protect these vivid colors until today. The space itself is small, yet the meaning it carries feels far greater than its physical size. Debre Damo, the cliffside gate of faith. In northern Tigray, on top of a flat-topped mountain, stands Debre Damo, a monastery that has endured since the 6th century AD. Reaching it is not easy, yet the effort itself feels more valuable than the arrival. According to legend, Abuna Aragawi, the founder of the monastery, could not climb the cliff alone. A giant serpent sent by God lowered its body down the rock and carried him upward. The serpent disappeared. The monastery remained. Above the cliffs, life has continued in almost the same rhythm for centuries. Monks study religious texts and preserve ancient manuscripts. Only men are permitted to enter this monastery. And according to tradition, that rule applies not only to people, but to animals as well. Danakil, the harshest surface on Earth. The rock-hewn churches and mountain monasteries of the north slowly disappear behind us. The road descends. The air grows heavier. The colors around us begin to change. Green fades away, leaving only gray and beige. Then even those colors disappear, until only white remains. The Danakil lies at the point where three tectonic plates slowly pull apart from one another. Around 2 centimeters each year, an invisible movement. Yet its effects can be seen everywhere. The ground fractures, volcanic gases rise from below. Salt crystals spread across the surface through thousands of years of accumulation. The Danakil sits approximately 125 meters below sea level. For much of the year, average temperatures remain above 35 degrees Celsius. At times, they can approach 50 degrees. The heat here is truly intense. But beyond the extreme temperatures, another story emerges. Across the ground, pools of yellow, orange, and neon green appear like fragments of another world. The liquid inside these pools is so acidic it can dissolve metal. Mineral layers gathered around them constantly shift shape under the force of wind and geothermal activity. Some formations appear within a single day, while others vanish just as quickly. Scientists have discovered something remarkable in this region. Microorganisms capable of surviving in environments similar to conditions believed to exist on Mars or Venus. Known as nanohaloarchaea, these microscopic life forms may reveal just how far life can adapt under extreme conditions. With its intense heat, acidic pools, and striking landscapes, the Danakil feels unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Danakil's salt flats labor in the heart of the desert. The Danakil salt flats stretch endlessly across the horizon. Before sunrise each morning, Afar men walk toward the salt fields carrying simple tools, picks, shovels, and small hammers. Using techniques passed down through generations, they begin cutting blocks of salt from the ground. Rectangular slabs are separated, shaped, and stacked with practiced precision. The work must be completed before the temperature rises too high. Nearby, camels wait patiently to carry the heavy salt blocks across the desert. The routes are long, leading toward distant trading points. Some caravans extend for more than a kilometer. The leading camel moves forward without ropes, guided only by footsteps and quiet whispers. There is no shade, no pause, only movement and burden beneath the desert sun. For centuries, salt held immense value across these lands and was once used almost like currency. Even today, it remains important. and the people who extract it continue this demanding work with the same rhythm as generations before them. In one of the world's harshest environments, life continues with remarkable persistence. Erta Ale, the living lake of fire. Erta Ale is one of the few volcanoes on Earth known for its permanent lava lake. At the summit, inside a crater opening through the rocky surface, molten lava moves constantly. It folds, separates, and reconnects in an endless cycle. The orange glow illuminates the surrounding darkness throughout the night, even without artificial light. The ground remains warm beneath your feet at all times. As you approach the crater, the smell of volcanic gas slowly intensifies. Then come the sounds, deep rumbling echoes that make it feel as though the earth itself is moving below you. Near the edge, the heat pushes back against your body almost instinctively. Volcanic activity that began thousands of years ago continues here today, constantly reshaping the landscape and making the Danakil region one of the planet's most dynamic geological environments. Lake Abijatta and the Travertine Chimneys. Another planet. We leave the volcanic lava fields behind, but the geography continues to surprise us. Near the border between Ethiopia and Djibouti, the ground changes once again. Across the flat terrain rise white and gray stone chimneys. Some stand 10 meters tall, others 40, some even beyond 50 meters. From a distance, they appear scattered and isolated, yet together they form a surreal landscape. How were these travertine chimneys formed? Underground hot springs met the cold waters of the lake, creating mineral deposits over time. Across centuries, those deposits slowly transformed into towering stone columns. Some still release steam today. A thin layer of mist drifts around the chimneys. And among the stone formations and pale fog, an unexpected presence appears. Flamingos. Thanks to its high salt concentration, Lake Abijatta creates an ideal environment for algae and microorganisms. In turn, thousands of flamingos gather here. The result is an unforgettable scene. Soft pink reflections shimmering across the water beneath towering gray stone pillars. The contrast is so striking, it almost overwhelms the eyes. Simien Mountains, the plateau above the clouds. From the flat landscapes of Danakil, we climb once more into the highlands. The Simien Mountains, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, form a plateau shaped by volcanic forces over millions of years. Sharp ridges, vertical cliffs, and valleys descending thousands of meters define this dramatic landscape. Mist rarely leaves the peaks, and within minutes, the terrain ahead can disappear entirely from view. Ras Dashen, the highest point in the region, rises above 4,500 meters. At this altitude, open grasslands replace forests, and here lives a species found nowhere else on Earth, the Gelada monkey. Sometimes called the bleeding heart monkey because of the deep red patch on its chest. It is related to baboons, yet feeds almost entirely on grass. These highland meadows suit it perfectly, and it spends hours grazing across the plateau. Unlike many other primates, geladas rarely climb trees. Instead, they spread across the open highlands in large social groups. Throughout the day, they remain on the grassy plateaus. But as darkness approaches, they descend toward cliffs beyond the reach of predators. There, balanced on narrow ledges sometimes no wider than a human hand, they rest calmly above immense drops. The Walaya ibex is another species unique to these mountains. With specially adapted hooves, it can grip even steep and slippery surfaces. It climbs sharply angled cliffs with ease, finding safety in places few predators can reach. In the Simien Mountains, life continues in forms perfectly adapted to altitude and isolation. Blue Nile Falls, the sound of great smoke. Our journey continues as we descend from the mountains. Shortly after leaving Lake Tana, the Blue Nile bursts over a basalt cliff. Depending on the season, the waterfall never drops below 35 meters in height, while its width can expand to nearly 400 meters. As we move closer, the sound of rushing water grows louder. When the river crashes below, it creates immense clouds of mist. The spray rises into the air, spreading coolness across the landscape. Ethiopians call this place Tis Iset, Great Smoke. Near the falls stands an arched stone bridge dating back to the 17th century. It was the first bridge ever built across the Blue Nile. Even today, it still stands and remains in use. Part of the waterfall's flow is now redirected toward a hydroelectric power station. Yet its sound and visual power remain much the same as they were centuries ago. Lake Tana, the silence where the Blue Nile begins. We return to the source of the waterfall. Lake Tana, Ethiopia's largest lake, is also the birthplace of the Blue Nile. Unlike the energy of the falls, this place feels defined by silence. The stillness of the water is disturbed only by the gentle ripples left behind by fishing boats moving slowly with long wooden poles. Sunlight reflects across the lake's surface. African pelicans glide overhead with enormous white wings stretched wide. In the distance, only eyes and nostrils appear above the water at first. Then suddenly, massive bodies emerge. Yes, hippos live here too. Scattered across the lake are islands. Some hold monasteries dating back to the 14th century, their circular walls covered with colorful frescoes. Others are said to preserve the remains of former emperors. At Lake Tana, there is no rush. Everything feels calm, quiet, and timeless. Weni, the Emerald Lake. Inside a crater. Have you become accustomed to Ethiopia's surprises yet? Here comes another one. High in the Bale region, at an altitude exceeding 3,000 meters, lies Lake Weni inside the crater of an extinct volcano. The crater walls are covered with deep green vegetation. Water flowing from small waterfalls descends along the slopes and merges into the lake's emerald-colored waters. On a small island in the middle of the lake stands an ancient monastery, Kirkos Monastery. Reaching it requires effort. First, you descend the slopes on horseback. Then, you cross the cold water in a traditional wooden boat. Weni offers a softer landscape, completely different from the harsher environment surrounding it. Gondar, Africa's Camelot. We leave behind the mountains and volcanic plains, heading northwest. The air becomes cooler here, the land greener. Then, on top of a hill, an unexpected silhouette appears. Walls, towers, and the fortress of an empire. Gondar was founded in the early 17th century by Emperor Fasilides. It marked a turning point in Ethiopian history, the transition toward a permanent imperial capital. Fasil Gebi, the imperial palace complex, covers more than 70,000 square meters and is surrounded by defensive walls stretching nearly 900 meters. Inside stand 6 separate palaces, churches, a ceremonial bathing pool, and buildings once used by royal officials. One of the most fascinating aspects for historians is the architecture itself. Portuguese influences, Moorish details, Ethiopian craftsmanship, and traces of Jesuit Baroque style all exist together within a single complex. Architectural ideas from different corners of the world blended here and evolved into something entirely unique in African history. Inside the structure known as the Egg Castle lies the emperor's private prayer chamber. Its dome, shaped almost like a seashell, has survived centuries of time and conflict. From the fortress walls, Lake Tana can be seen shimmering in the distance, beneath the horizon light. Harar, the labyrinth of 368 streets. We leave the walls of Gondar only to enter another walled world. But this time, everything feels narrower, denser, and more intricate. Harar is an ancient, fortified city built upon a hill in eastern Ethiopia. Its walls, constructed between the 13th and 16th centuries, were designed not only for defense, but also to separate sacred life from the noise of the outside world. Inside are 368 streets. Most are so narrow that only one person can comfortably pass through at a time. Dead ends appear unexpectedly. There are almost no signs to guide you. Navigation depends entirely on memory and familiarity. Traditional houses painted in pastel colors stand beside old stone buildings. Mosques and marketplaces are woven into the city's fabric. For centuries, Harar served as one of the major centers of Islamic culture along regional trade routes. With its 42 mosques, that cultural heritage remains alive today. Yet what made Harar widely known beyond its historic atmosphere is a tradition that begins after dark, outside the city walls. In the silence of the night, sounds begin to emerge. Then, close to the ground, glowing eyes appear. Hyenas arrive. This tradition, passed down through generations, involves offering food to the hyena clans that frequent the area, a practice believed to maintain balance between people and hyenas. According to local belief, this relationship helps maintain balance between people and hyenas. The animals clear the surrounding area of waste, and in return, they are fed. With its narrow streets, pastel-colored homes, and centuries-old traditions, Harar remains one of Ethiopia's most unusual and unforgettable destinations. A place where, at night, you may witness a hyena calmly taking food from a human hand. Sof Omar Caves. A prayer beneath nature. Beneath the limestone plateau of eastern Ethiopia lies a hidden world far from sight. For thousands of years, the Wabe River carved its way through the rock, widening the softer sections and shaping vast halls with high ceilings and long corridors. In time, it created the longest-known underground cave system in East Africa, a subterranean network stretching for more than 15 kilometers. The Sof Omar Caves. In some sections, light slips through small openings from above. It falls onto stone columns, forming narrow beams in the darkness. For a brief moment, the cave brightens, almost as if it is breathing. Then the darkness returns. Local people know that this place is not only a natural formation. In the 12th century, Sheikh Sof Omar, according to legend, took refuge in these caves after being guided by divine inspiration. Some parts of the cave were transformed into spaces of prayer. Since then, the caves have been valued both as a natural wonder and as a spiritual place. Visitors who explore this underground cave system also feel the quiet peace of a sacred space. Konso among the stones. We emerge from the depths of the cave and continue our journey south. Konso is a settlement known for its distinctive architecture and recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Built on steep, rocky hills, its villages were created through techniques passed down from generation to generation. No modern technology, only balance, experience, and inherited knowledge. Stones are stacked one upon another, forming a system that holds itself together. Protected terraces rise in circular layers, following the shape of the land. From above, the village resembles the steps of an ancient amphitheater. Walking through it, however, feels almost like entering a labyrinth. Konso has also adapted its agriculture to this system. Sorghum, vegetables, and fruits are grown on terraces designed to resist erosion and drought. This farming system is recognized as one of Africa's most sustainable traditional agricultural methods. There is another special story in Konso. Inside the villages, at certain points, stand wooden sculptures. Known as waga, these figures represent fallen warriors, leaders, and ancestors. If you look closely at each statue, you can see details connected to the person it represents. Sometimes enemies are shown beside them. Sometimes hunting symbols are included. Shrine of Sheikh Hussein, sacred white in the middle of the desert. As we move across the dry plains of the Bale region, the land becomes harsher and the shadows grow shorter. Then, in the distance, something appears like a mirage. White domes. The shrine of Sheikh Hussein is a religious complex with more than 900 years of history and deep meaning for Ethiopian Muslims. Dedicated to the legendary Sufi saint Sheikh Hussein, it is often referred to as the Mecca of Ethiopia. Thick white walls, narrow passageways, and sacred caves define the complex. The white plaster made from ash and mud is believed by many to have healing qualities. During pilgrimage seasons, tens of thousands of visitors dressed in white gather here. The sound of prayer echoes through the air. From a distance, the crowd appears almost like a single unified presence. This place reminds us that Ethiopia is not only a Christian country, it is a land where multiple religious traditions have lived side by side. Tiya Stelae, the unsolved language of stone. In southern Ethiopia, near Addis Ababa, more than 30 standing stones rise from the ground. Their heights vary from 1 to 5 meters. Their surfaces are covered with sword shapes, spirals, and geometric symbols. This is Tiya. These symbols have not yet been fully decoded. Archaeologists believe the site was used as a burial ground between the 10th and 15th centuries. The graves are thought to belong to young men buried in a fetal position. Why this position? What do the symbols mean? Which culture created them? And many questions remain unanswered. Listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Tiya still waits for its meanings to be fully understood. Omo Valley, a land where dozens of languages live together. We continue south, where the soil turns red and the Omo Valley begins. The Omo River also flows southward through this vast landscape. Here, dozens of different communities live side by side. Each has its own language, its own sense of time, its own architecture, and its own cultural identity. There are no clear geographic or political borders separating them. In the Omo Valley, knowledge is carried less through screens or books and more through hands, seasons, and careful observation. The Omo Valley is home to one of the world's richest concentrations of cultural diversity. And this diversity continues vividly in the middle of daily life, without needing borders to define it. Hamar Tribe, the people of color and ritual. The Hamar Tribe. Early in the morning, Hamar women begin their day. The first thing that captures attention is their hair. It is shaped with a mixture of butter and red ochre, then woven into thick braids. Under the sunlight, the dark reddish tones glow like the earth itself. Copper bracelets, layered bead necklaces, and metal collars all carry meaning. Marital status, the number of a husband's wives, a person's place within the community. Their clothing is simple and suited to the heat and daily work. Homes are built in circular forms using wood, mud, and woven grass. At night, cattle remain inside the homes as well. Here, cattle represent status, wealth, and survival. The value of a single animal can outweigh almost anything else. There is another tradition that brought the Hamar tribe to wider attention: the bull jumping ceremony. To prove his transition into adulthood, a young man must run across the backs of cattle lined side by side, wearing traditional attire, without support, without falling. If he succeeds, he gains a new standing within the community. He can take on responsibilities, marry, and build a family. Throughout the ceremony, women from his family voluntarily take part in the ritual as a sign of support and connection. Mursi Tribe, those who carry identity on the body. We arrive at another side of the Omo Valley, the Mursi Tribe. Here, the body itself becomes a language. Over many years, Mursi women gradually stretch their lower lips by inserting clay plates of increasing size. The process takes patience. Each larger plate slowly changes the form of the lip. In the end, the result is seen as a strong expression of beauty and maturity. The ears are shaped with the same patience. Heavy earrings slowly pull the lobes downward over time. These physical transformations reflect social identity and status within the community. Their bodies become living canvases covered with patterns made from white ash and natural pigments. These designs are temporary, recreated again and again. They change according to mood, circumstance, or the feeling of the day. Their homes are small huts made from mud and grass. Cattle milk remains a central food source. Thick porridge prepared from sorghum and maize provides daily energy. Meals are shared together, creating moments of conversation and connection. Karo Tribe, the language of paint. With fewer than 3,000 people, the Karo Tribe is one of Ethiopia's smallest ethnic communities. When the Omo River floods, it enriches the surrounding soil. Once the waters retreat, the season of cultivation begins. Before sunrise, preparations already begin along the riverbanks. White limestone, red ochre, black charcoal, applied carefully with the fingers. Every pattern carries meaning. Scarification marks carved into the skin symbolize stages of life and personal achievement. Hair is shaped with red clay and decorated with ostrich feathers. These decorations often represent accomplishment, sometimes a successful hunt, sometimes the completion of an important rite of passage. The Karo may be one of the least populated communities in Ethiopia, yet visually they remain among the most striking. Addis Ababa, the city of two times. Our journey now moves northward again, from red earth to paved roads, from silence to noise. Addis Ababa, standing at an altitude of 2,355 meters, is among the highest capital cities in the world. East Africa's most advanced light rail system moves above crowded streets. At the same moment, a donkey carrying supplies walks beneath it. Glass skyscrapers continue to rise while prayers are still whispered beside the old stone church walls. Across the city, contrasts exist side by side. And there is another tradition here that should not be forgotten: the coffee ceremony. Green coffee beans are roasted slowly over a small charcoal fire. At first, a light aroma rises into the air, then something richer and deeper. The beans are ground by hand and poured from a round clay pot known as a jabena. The coffee is brewed 3 times, each serving symbolizing a transition, warming the body, awakening the mind, calming the spirit. Incense burns nearby while the smoke drifts slowly through the room. According to a legend from the high forests of the Kaffa region, thousands of years ago, a goat herder noticed unusual energy in his animals. The goats had eaten berries from a particular plant. That plant was Coffea Arabica. Today, one of the world's most widely consumed drinks began in these forests. And Ethiopia embraced coffee as a cultural tradition long before it became a global trade commodity. Another tradition lives on in this city as well. Gursha. Feeding a guest directly by hand is seen as an expression of hospitality and deep human connection. Kaffa Region, the forest where coffee was born. We leave behind the noise of the capital and travel west toward Kaffa. High forests covered in mist and endless shades of green. Hillsides filled with native coffee plants growing in their natural environment. Here, people still prepare coffee using methods passed down through generations. The beans are collected, roasted, ground by hand, and brewed slowly. In Kaffa, coffee is not simply consumed, it is lived. These forests remain among the few places on Earth where native Arabica coffee still grows naturally. In this sense, Kaffa is not just a destination, but the origin of one of the world's most familiar daily rituals. Ethiopia, Ethiopia. Not the end of the journey, but the beginning. We began our cinematic travel documentary among the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. We passed beside the fire of Danakil. We looked across the cliffs of the Simien Mountains. We sat with the people of the Omo Valley and quietly observed their lives. We felt the 2 different rhythms of Addis Ababa. For thousands of years, people have left their marks across these lands, carved into stone, cut into mountainsides, painted onto the bodies of tribal communities, preserved through frescoes covering monastery walls. Ethiopia is one of those remarkable destinations that leaves you feeling different after you return home, a place that makes you want to travel there again one day. So much still waits to be discovered. Valleys whose names you do not yet know, cliffs you have not climbed, coffee you have not tasted. There are still hidden wonders of the world waiting for you. Until the next cinematic 4K journey, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us for more travel inspiration. Let us continue exploring the world together.